Welcome back to On Air with Kate Butler as we dig into revealing life's best kept secrets. Today, I am so happy and excited to have with me Jenny Fenig, who helps you remember who you truly are, a magic maker. Her work focuses on empowering creative women entrepreneurs to increase their confidence, impact money, and time freedom by mixing modern with ancient practices. That's juicy. I love this. Jenny is here today to share her inspiring story. And she's also going to share with us how you can do less and make more. Seriously, I'm so excited to dive into all of this. So Jenny, this show is all about the game-changing stuff, the real juicy stuff, right? So I would love to dive right in with you, and I know that you are game for it. So have you had a game-changing experience in your own life, and would you be willing to share that with us?
Oh, sure. I mean, there's been several, and I knew you were going to ask me this question. So as I just tuned in and said, what do I want to share right now? What I'll share was the decision to let go of alcohol in my life. That was something that came about a few years back. It was actually in 2015. I think you and I met around that time. I was trying to find a picture when we met. You know, we kind of like randomly bumped into each other at Kripalu, at Gabby Bernstein's retreat there. I don't know if it was that year or next year. It was one of those years. And I had an epiphany that year after having been a huge party girl. If you would have known me in my teens and 20s, I was living it up, living fast, working hard, playing hard, as I like to call it. I grew up in Florida and then found my way to New York City to pursue a public relations career, which then has evolved. And now here I am as a coaching business owner. But yeah, it was, you know, I'd had my 3 kids. I didn't drink while I was pregnant with them. And I had gotten into yoga before having children. And that really was the catalyst for me to take better care of my body and be really mindful. What am I putting inside of myself? Like, what kind of thoughts am I thinking? What am I eating? What am I drinking? What am I surrounding myself with? All of it. And then it was that year where it was just kind of a culmination of several things. And I had this clear message, this clear download that said, let it go, just let it go. It didn't really have that big of a part of my life at that stage, but it was still kind of there. And it was this interesting, very clear message that came through. And I remember just kind of having this back and forth with God. Like, that's how I felt like, really, this is what you want from me? This is what you're asking? Like this? Yes. All right. And it was this whole idea, you will live a life beyond your wildest dreams. And so I just thought, all right, well, let's just see. Let's just let it go. And so it's been 5.5 years now. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for just what my life has become, and just redesigning what it is to be a human and how to handle stuff. Because we all have stuff. We have hard stuff. And I know for me in the past, alcohol was a numbing technique, and it was a technique to allow myself to feel maybe less socially anxious in situations where you're just like, oh yeah, you know, you could do that, and it just takes the edge off. But I've learned how to do that in my own way. And so that for me was a game changer.
And so what differences have you seen in your life, right, through giving up alcohol? Like, what can you contribute to? I know that if I hadn't, given up alcohol, then maybe it would look like this, but rather it looks like this now because I did make that choice.
Yeah. So what it is for me is that I am not afraid of feeling my feelings, and I'm not afraid of doing the things that I need to do. Parenting, I mean, that could be like a full-time operation. Okay. And for me, it's also just showing the kids I can unwind from a day by getting on my Peloton bike, or by, going out for a walk with my dog, or by myself, or just us hanging out, or me reading a really good book. And so that was just this ability to say, what kind of example do I want to set? What kind of life do I want to live? And this is not a judgment to people who still drink. It's like, for some people, they realize they can't eat gluten anymore. Like, they can't have sugar. There's something in a food or a drink or a certain ingredient or a certain kind of relationship that just doesn't work for you anymore. It's like toxic to your system. And I found that my relationships are so much deeper now. We can just go there. And, the people that I've attracted to my life, like for instance, I have a relatively new friend. And, sometimes it's harder to make friends when you get older. You're kind of like, you have your people, and then maybe you have some people on the periphery because you see them at like drop off for things, which isn't really happening right now.
Right. Even harder now. Yeah.
Pre-COVID. Yeah. So now you're like, how am I really making friends? But anyway, I have this relatively new friend, and this is a conversation that we're having together because she shared with me that she has decided to let go of that, and she like didn't have anyone she felt like she could talk to about it. And she shared with me like, do you know I don't drink? She's like, no, I had no idea. I'm like, oh yeah. And so, you just kind of have these super cool synchronicities that are occurring. And I'll tell you, the people in my life who kind of understand this choice, our relationship is just so multidimensional, and we have the most incredible conversations. And so I'm just, that feeling of gratitude, and also just kind of understanding, regardless whether it's alcohol, whether it's this kind of a relationship, whether it's like you have to have this kind of a job to fit in, or you need to be in this religion, or you need to like that, you really can just sit and deconstruct it and go, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Like, what am I getting sold here? Like, what is this about? And so it allows you, what I encourage everyone here to do is just look at anything that you've been told has to be. Like, the only way you can handle if you're sad is to do this. The only way you can handle if this is to do that. And maybe that's true. But I found there's many paths, there's many ways. And so you really want to deconstruct and say, how can you live the most powerfully? And how can you really do the work that's yours to do? That was another clear message I got, was that in order for me to be that channel, in order for me to really show up powerfully, that can't be in my life, because it just doesn't work for me. Like, even one glass of wine, I just would feel like crap. So why am I doing that? Why am I doing that? What's another way for me to achieve the kind of result I was thinking I was getting from alcohol? What would be another way for me to do that so that I can show up really powerfully and clean in the various relationships that I'm in?
Was it difficult for you to give it up? So I love what you're saying here. No. Okay. So, because I love what you're doing here. It's whatever that toxic thing is in your life, right?
Yes.
So it's not alcohol for you, whatever it is, because everyone, like, there's vices out there, right? And so you're not a stranger to what a vice could be in your own life, right?
Right.
And I love also what you're saying, because this is really game changing. What you're telling me, and everyone here who's listening, right, is, first of all, I love the language you're using around it. You're letting it go. You release alcohol. You let go of alcohol, or whatever your vice is for anyone else out there. And then, you're also describing this as like things that you did, like you, instead of, right? Like you could go for a walk, or you could exercise, or, to unwind, right? These really specific things. So is that why it wasn't difficult for you to let it go? Because I'm imagining someone else out there going, okay, that sounds great, that I want to be more powerful, that I do want to show up clean, but I'm having a difficulty with the connection of, right, getting from, my habit of what I am currently doing to the place where I am showing up and saying, I'm 5.5 years later, and I'm so grateful I made that decision.
Yeah.
Right? What can you offer to someone asking that question?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in my instance, I had been heading in this direction for so long without me knowing it. It was when I really discovered yoga, and that was in my 20s, when I mean, Kate, if you would have known me back then, I was such a partier. I mean, I had a ball, and I have no regrets. I mean, I needed to do all of that, but I look back to, and some of that was I was trying to heal from trauma, from a huge game-changing moment was my sister died when I was a teenager of cancer. And so I was running from that pain. I was trying to numb out. And so I think everyone has to look at, what are you doing? Like, what is this really about? Is it really just, you just need to go and throw this back, or you need to be in this relationship that's actually really unhealthy? What is it? Like, what's the hole you're trying to fill here? And so I had been on that path of choosing yoga and like having a morning class and going, I probably shouldn't go out and get like totally blitzed, you know, the night before the class, because I won't get up and go to class. And I really like how I feel when I go to class. So I was starting to deconstruct this,
Yeah.
went through my yoga teacher training when I still lived in New York. And then having kids, it was just, I just started getting on the path. And you know what? I have to give a shout out to my husband. He doesn't drink. It's not like he wouldn't have a glass every now and again, but we don't really have alcohol in the house. When I remember when I met him, he was the first relationship I ever had where that wasn't a piece of it. I'm like, wait, hold on. Like, wait, what? We're going to a concert and we're going to the bar and we're getting water? Like, this is weird, but good weird.
Yes.
So all these things were kind of orchestrating for me. And again, in my mind, it wasn't like, well, I'm going to not drink anymore. It was just, I just kept walking through that. And so when I got to that point, it was more like, well, why am I still doing this then? It was more of like a lot, like, what is this? I don't even need this anymore. It's just kind of a thing that's sitting here, and I'm doing it out of an old habit and out of a socialization of, because when you go to an event, that's what you do. And certainly if it's open bar, I mean, you might as well drink because it's free or you've paid whatever money to be there. And if you're not drinking, you're losing money. And so, you know, there was all this stuff that I was deconstructing. But so for me, it was relatively simple, but I had a support system around me.
Right.
I went to AA for a bit. I'm grateful for AA. In my path, I found that I didn't want to continue doing that, but at first it was right for me. I have a wonderful therapist who has helped me process a lot of trauma and a lot of pain. And so I have to give credit to her as well. For anyone else who's in that situation, whatever you're trying to break, you know, a habit, an old way of showing up, an old line of thinking, it's really to look at, you know, is this serving you or is this shackling you? Like, what is the thing? Is it serving you or is it shackling you? And are you still buying into some old narrative or some old story that you need this in order to do X, or that who would you be if you don't have Y? And, you know, I don't care what someone's trying to work through. I feel like the way into so many breakthroughs and for you having the kind of life that you want is through the body. It's through, I mean, this is this thing that we have. It's on loan. We have it for a period of time. And we are living in this time where we're so on technology. I mean, that's how we're connecting right now. Technology is a wonderful tool until you realize that it's using you as the tool. So you have to really pull back. Like before we had this talk, Kate, I got on my Peloton bike. I'm like, let's go. I'm going to move my body. I'm going to sweat. I'm going to do something for me. I'm going to have a teacher telling me things I need to hear and moving this body. And so everyone, make sure you're moving your body and really plug in when you do and say, how do I feel? Like really look at how you feel. And when you move your body in these ways, this is real. This is totally real. It's not synthetic. It's not made up of some, you know, some fake chemical. Like this is a real, you know, endorphins to me are the most incredible.
This is around. Yep. Absolutely phenomenal. Yes. And you know what, I think you're asking, you're posing great questions for people to ask themselves to really begin to unpack, right? Which we all need to do on all periodically, I should say, right? So it's not you unpack something once and then you say, okay, I did the work and now I can move on, right? So I always say, if you haven't asked these questions, right, like within, you know, the last couple of months, right? Or if you're in a relationship and you haven't asked these questions or checked in with your partner, right? In these last few months, right? Like it's time to do it again because we're always changing, evolving, and you know, experiencing new things. And so we always have to kind of check in and unpack, and you're really posing phenomenal questions to begin that process. And, you know, I always ask a really simple question, which is, what would I prefer? Right. And I think that's what, at the end of it, it was like, would I prefer to go to that yoga class or feel this way? Would I prefer to have deep, meaningful relationships or not? You know, like, so at the end of the day, what would you prefer? Okay. So that is really diving into the juicy stuff right off the bat. I would love to know a little bit more about this do less, make more. This is a topic that, well, I'm just going to let you share with us, right? Because I'm interested. I know my community will be very interested in learning more about this.
Okay. Yeah. So this is really related to what I was just talking about, because you know, when we look at that example I shared, it's really about energy management.
Mhm.
and energy optimization. Like we have a finite amount of energy every day. It's like we need to recharge. We need to recharge. We're going to run out of fuel if we don't sleep, if we don't eat, if we don't, stay hydrated.
Yep.
And that's really what women have hit up against since the beginning, is that we end up, burning out, taking on more than we can, just to kind of prove ourselves, prove that we can keep up, prove that we're worthy of being in this room, or having this business, or charging these prices, or what have you. And so then we end up just being really freaking depleted and trying to overexert ourselves, and we don't really get to where we're meant to be. And then if we do get there, we're just falling over on the side of the road, and we're over it. So what I really looked at, and the catalyst for this, Kate, was several years back when my oldest son threw a curveball, which at the time I'm like, oh my, why is this happening? What is going on? How are we going to pull this off? And I'll tell you, I became grateful for it very soon after that. And then certainly during this COVID time, ultra grateful, because a lot of the world now knows where I've been and where we've been as a family. But that was, he refused to continue going to his school, and he refused to go to any other schools. He was in second grade at the time, and he was very clear. And he said to my husband and myself, I want to be homeschooled. And we're like, what? Why? Who does that? How do you do that? You can't be homeschooled. We don't do that. We both work. We work from home. You go to school. That's what you do. If you don't like this school, we'll get a different school. There's other schools. And he wasn't having it. He was very clear. No, homeschool or bust.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I was in the middle of this giant launch, which that taught me a lot of things. One was I like a more simple business. Like I got into a place where there's way too much complexity, way too many moving parts, way too much like trying to keep up with the internet Joneses. Like, this is what you have to do. You have to do it like that. You're gonna do it. And so I really stripped away and just said, they can do it like that if they want to, but I have found my own rhythm and my own vibe, and this is how I want to do it. And a lot of it, that catalyst was my son Sean. And so we started homeschooling. We started freaking homeschooling. And so by sheer necessity, I could not do all the things anymore that I was doing. I didn't have all those hours in the day to work when my kids were out of the house at either school or daycare. I have 3 kids. And, it was humbling, but I wasn't willing to say, well, I'm just going to pack up the business and just, that's it. I had a good run. Sorry, everybody. It was fun. No, that wasn't an option for me. I love what I do too much. And quite frankly, what I bring into my family financially is crucial. So there were many things going on here. So I had to figure out, how can I pull this off? And when I learn it, when I figure it out, I'm going to share it with my people, with my community. And so I just really started deconstructing time and deconstructing this old idea that the more that you work, the more progress that you make. I believe it's being intelligent about what you do in terms of the work, and that we need to know when it's time to delegate something, when it's time to pause something, when it's time to say, we're not doing this anymore. You need to look at what is the best use of your energy and time. Like if you're in business for yourself, what really moves the needle? If you're in a job, like what do you really get paid to do? What do you really do that makes an impact on the business? Within your relationship, within your home, what is the stuff that you do so well? And then how can you, change around the roles and responsibilities so that it's not all on your shoulders? Because again, that's an old narrative that a lot of women take on. So we need to work with our systems. We need to work with automating things. And then we need to work with the cosmos. And so when we work with the cosmos, this is when we are aligned with what's going on around us in this giant universe. So we're just these small little specks. And we think we're so big, and we are, but we're really small little specks. We're like bits of stardust. And so in my life, in my business, I started really working with the moon and developing a deep relationship with the moon. I consider the moon my mother, really getting in touch with her energy and what she has to teach me. And so, from the framework of how it allows you to do less and make more, it's aligning your own actions, perhaps your own projects, what you're doing work-wise, personal-wise, with that energy. And so always knowing where the moon is in her cycle, when is the new moon? And when you're in that new moon energy, you're really looking at setting your intentions, getting clear on what you want to focus on. Where are you going to put your energy for this cycle? Okay, because where you put your energy is where you're going to see an impact. If you're not intentionally putting it anywhere, if you're just kind of all over the place, don't be surprised when your results are very scattered and it's like there's no container for them because it was very willy-nilly. And so we're going to get clear, and then we're going to progress through the cycle. We're going to move into that first quarter moon where we're really looking at taking action on what you said you were going to do. If you say you want to get healthier, if you say you want to, launch this program, if you want to launch a podcast, well, what did you do? Did you just say it? Just saying it is not enough. Are you aligning your actions with what you said your intention was? And then you really vibe into the energy of the full moon. That's when you're your fullest power. For all the women listening, this is when in our menstrual cycle, this is when we would be ovulating. This is when we could conceive a child. It's like you are just va-va booming out there. This is when you're just going for it. And then boom, you come around the cycle. And the final phase, you could go very granular with it, but I look at the 4 main phases of the cycle. The final phase, that last quarter moon, is letting go to rise higher, letting go to rise higher. And so you look at what are the results of your efforts? What came to be? What did you realize? You know what? That's not really aligned. You made that choice from like ego, from you thought you were supposed to do that, but then you realize, like, you know what? That's not really me. That's not a right fit. It's actually moved me in this other direction, and that's going to be better. And so you're just finalizing things in that last piece of the phase, last piece of the cycle. And then boom, you just double down on that as you move forward. And so that whole framework, I call it the Magic Makers method. This became a piece of one of our larger programs. We then launched a coaching school, which we'd had for a while, a coach certification. And because I fell so in love with this process, this method, I said, I want to teach more women how to live this way. And then I want to teach them how to coach this way. And so we created this coach certification, really using this method. And it has changed everything for me. And the hard part, I have to tell you, there's like I guess I wouldn't even call it a con. It's just like, it's what happens too when you let go of any kind of toxic thing or any kind of old way of doing it, is that you see through things very quickly. You're just like, you see it all, and you can't really play the old game anymore.
Absolutely.
I'm not able to do that.
I'm not available for that any longer. Yes, I completely understand. I know a lot of people out there can probably relate as well. And, there is so much that you just gave us, Jenny. Actually, so many additional questions now that we can begin asking about our business, right? So in the first part of this, I'll just say, right, and you sharing your game-changing moment, you actually shared with us some brilliant questions for us to unpack personally, right? How we can show up as our best self. What you just did for us now is really offer some questions of how we can begin to unpack how we show up best in our business, right? Our passion, what we're giving back to the world. And, although, yes, we are these little bits, or I love how you describe that. That was a beautiful way of kind of putting it all in perspective. I think what you're also saying is that we are also powerful beyond measure, right? We are although we may be these, tiny little bits in the grand scheme of the universe, right? Clearly made from stardust. We also are these incredibly powerful beings. And I think what you're describing here, at least what I'm receiving from you, is that when you understand the elements and how to use them in your favor, and you really understand the capabilities you have to co-create in this universal way, life becomes extraordinary and, in your words, magical, right? And you are then, in fact, that magic maker, which you have just told us, and shared with us so brilliantly about. And just as a testament to what you're sharing here and teaching here, I love this, what you're teaching. And one of the most impactful things that I learned in my business early on, actually, my beautiful cousin, Carolyn, actually taught this to me. And she, was, I shouldn't say studying the moon, perhaps that's the right word or whatever. She just knows stuff.
Sure.
She's
Yeah.
the one, she just knows stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so she had shared with me, track your times throughout the month where you are productive, the most productive,
Yeah.
track when you're the most creative, and a couple of other elements, right? Like we don't need to get too deep into it. I think the way you put it was perfect, Jenny. But I started to track that. And now there are days every single month where it is a non-negotiable. There's nothing on my calendar because those are the days that I am absolutely most creative. And I will only spend those days in my creation mode. And then also there are times when I am most productive. So I also won't do calls on those days or anything scheduled on those days, because that's when I will, you're in that time vortex. Like I get more work done and I am more productive in those 3 or 4 days than I will be the entire rest of the month. And listen, you and I, we get stuff done. So we're talking massive amounts of work during that time. Like once you know, right? Like this is my vortex, like I'm in it.
That's it.
So what you're doing is you're teaching people how to do this in a really extraordinary way. And it's important work. It's really important. So what I would love to know, because you didn't just get here, Jenny, right? Like this, everything is, steps and evolutions of self and of knowledge. What was the best investment you ever made in yourself as you started to embark upon this journey that we're talking about here, getting you into the business that you have today?
Wow. I love that question. I am going to, it's a toss up between going through my yoga teacher training and going through the coach training. And so I'm just gonna need to say both of them, because I look back, because a lot of it for me was extricating myself from the life I thought I was supposed to live, which was, now I live in the Berkshires of Western Massachusetts. You might see a boatload of snow outside, and we had like a huge snowstorm yesterday.
Same.
Oh, it's amazing. But I lived in New York City prior to this, and I went there, Florida girl going to New York. I'm like, I'm going to do this. And I did. I mean, I had a blast. And I worked my tail off, and I met incredible people and worked on huge projects and global business. And I traveled and was celebrity, the whole thing. And I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm doing it. And yet there was that voice inside that was going, this ain't it.
Yes, that voice.
It is. And I'm drinking and I'm doing my, partying and going do my thing, like hang with my people. And then back then it was, you go to work, but then you do great work, but you complain about it. And I'm like, that's what you do. Like, that is just what it is. And that voice was going, this isn't it. And it was that inner voice that kept trying to get my attention. And it's subtle at first, then it gets louder and louder and louder.
Sure.
And so for me, my extrication out of that, of just really just exploring, just allow myself to say, I wonder what would happen. If I do this. And so it was first that investing, maybe it was like $2,000 or $2,500, I don't know, something like that, in a yoga teacher training, 200-hour yoga teacher training, while I was still employed full time, and just seeing, I'll just, who knows where this is going to go. And then boom, that just shook me right up. I ended up quitting my 6-figure job without another job, and very soon after that discovered the field of coaching, because I realized that teaching yoga, teaching asana was not my greatest gift. I'm grateful for people who do it, but that was not where I was supposed to land. That was just where I was my next stepping stone. And then boom, I heard about this thing called coaching. I go, what? I didn't know that was a job. Like, that's a thing? Wow, I've been doing that my whole life. Great. And so then deciding to then invest in a very, rigorous coach training and taking a bet on myself. And, I have to say, Kate, because I paid money for those things. My college education, I wanted a full ride academic scholarship. So I didn't have that experience of like, oh, you're paying for this. I was on a full ride academic scholarship, which I kept the whole time because of my grades, because I worked really hard and I understood how to do it all. And I thought it was a fun challenge to keep the GPA and keep the scholarship. So then when you are at that point where you go, oh, wait, I had to pay for this now. Like, I'm going to pay for my own development. There's no scholarship. This one's giving me I'm going to give myself a scholarship. Like, I'm going to do this.
That's right.
And do it. And this is what people need to hear. Do it without knowing exactly where it's going to take you. exactly what the payout's going to be. That's what some people, they get held back. They're like, well, where's this going to go? You're like, you don't know. Like, you don't ever know. But that's the fun of it. That's the giant mystery. It'll go where it's meant to go. But you got to do your part and you got to show up for it. I mean, you and I both know, Kate, we have coaching programs. And what I always say to my clients, like, I can't show up for you. Like, I'm going to show up, but you've got to show up for you. That's the whole thing. And so many people get in their way because they're like, well, where's this going to take me? And what if it takes me, you know, and they get all in their head and it gets all jumbly. And so if I can really leave one message with you today, it's just take that next right step. Trust that it is the stepping stone that's going to get you to where you're meant to be and that you are worth investing in. You are worth that.
Everything you said there is just so brilliant. I love how you said that, and you allowed us to pause even and take it in even further, Jenny, with hear this, you never know where it's going to go, right? In one of my first episodes, I talked about how the stepping stones lead you, right, to exactly where you are in this moment. And the next one will, in fact, what you said, how I put it was for, you know, the highest and best of all involved. And that's exactly what you're saying in your own words, right? And so we don't know exactly where it's going to take us, but if you're feeling led to it, right, in any way, then yes, it is meant for you, right? Like what you are wanting wants you back. It wants you back. So those whispers or that pull or that, you know, sense of like, I don't know, I just keep coming back to this email. I don't know, I keep visiting this website. I don't know, keep listening to this meditation from this one woman on repeat. I wonder why. It's not a coincidence, right? Well, I don't believe in coincidences, but that part I can tell you for sure, it's not a coincidence, right? There's a reason. It's one of your stepping stones to lead you to the next place that you are supposed to be, so that you can show up, right, in your highest and best. And there is never going to be the end. Like you are always continuing to take those steps, right? So really honoring that pull and believing, to your point that you said, you are worth that investment. You're worth that step. You're worth exploring where this could go and how far this could take you. So I would love to know more about that from you, Jenny. You have so generously brought a gift to the audience today. I would love for you to share about that. Tell us where we can find it. Of course, we'll drop the links as well, but I'd love to hear in your own words as well.
Yeah. All right. So a big passion of mine is helping women do their own thing, you know, help y'all have your own business, specifically, you know, for my coaches, consultants, transformational teachers out there. Like you have this gift inside of you. You have so many things that you're incredible at. And for a lot of women, you get in your own way and you overcomplicate things. And so what I wanted to do is just bring it back down to basics and say, let's get some clients. Like, let's just focus, not just some clients, the best clients, incredible clients, and clients who see the value that you bring into the world. And for you to realize your own power in matching a problem in the market with your own solution. And that's really what helps us get clients over and over and over again. So I created a sacred map and meditation to help you all attract ideal clients. And this is where, again, that whole yoga training all those years ago, I joke that I do teach yoga. People just don't realize it because yoga is more than asana. It's achieving mastery over the mind. So my meditations are a big part of my life. They're a big part of my business. So I'm really proud of this meditation we put together. And then the map just really breaks down this simple, really step by step to help people get clear of here's what you want to be doing. Like, here's what you want to be doing on the regular in your business to get clients, and not just get, like, attract incredible ones. And this is helpful for people, whether you're working one-on-one or really whether you're in that group format. I know you and I have done both, Kate, and I think both are beautiful. So yeah, everyone go check that out. jennyfenig.com/clients is where you can go get it. jennyfenig.com/clients.
I love that. And I actually did it myself. I wanted to, of course, check this out. And I'm very big into meditation. The number one thing that transformed my life. 8 years ago, I got into meditation and have not stepped away from it since. Just have really really felt even deeper into it all of the
Mhm.
time. Your meditation was
Mhm.
absolutely brilliant. It's beautiful. Everyone should certainly download this. I bookmarked it so that I can have
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah, I love it. I love a great meditation. And this one really helped me get into the zone. So I encourage everyone to check that out. So we check this out. We're going to download these generous gifts that you're offering. We're going to get new clients. We're going to get into our meditation space. But
Mhm.
how can I connect with you, Jenny? How can I
Yeah.
find out more about you, or where do I find you?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. So our home base is jennyfenig.com. That's like the spot where we've got lots of our, details and all the things. That site will be going through a renovation this year, but you can find all of our good stuff there. Our coach certification, for anyone who wants to check that out, that's magicmakerscoach.com. We've got that there for you. And then I'm really active on Facebook, honestly, more on my personal profile than my business. I just find that spot more fun. So you can, follow me there. And then Instagram is where you can find me as well. I hang out in both of those spots. And I'm just so grateful, and I'm grateful for what you're doing, Kate. Like I said, we met all those years ago, like when we used to go to events.
I know. Yes. Remember that?
Remember we used to go places? No, that will happen again. But it's funny because one of the upsides to this was, okay, and this is a final little tidbit I think you all can appreciate, is some things that happen in our lives were like, why is this happening? I can't believe it. This is like the worst. This is kind of wrecking the stuff that I had worked so hard for and whatever.
Yeah.
Well, when the homeschooling thing happened all those years ago, I mean, I went through the dark night of the soul. I thought I couldn't tell clients. I'm like, they're not going to want to work with me anymore. They're not going to take me seriously. Well, last year, when everything was shut down and all the things, I have a friend who owns a corporate wellness company, and she knows me because we live in the same town. Our kids used to be in the same class, the one that my son's like, I'm out of here.
Right.
Well, she brought me in. She hired me to deliver a boatload of presentations to her corporate and nonprofit and government entity clients, all about, get this, homeschooling and work balance.
Wow. Wow.
It was one of those, okay, I got it, universe. Thank you again for the
Yes.
reminder that it's not going to make sense. It's not going to make sense in the short term. You're going to push against it. You're going to go, why is this happening? This sucks. It's not fair. Everyone else has it easier. I can't. Okay. And so, I mean, again, we had found our rhythm with it, and I found it to be such a blessing. But then in terms of how it got into the business piece and how I'm like, I am delivering talks to leaders at like Mitsubishi, Samsonite, Hugo Boss, Planned Parenthood. Like it was all over the place. And I'm going, oh, okay. I was being prepared. And so I want everyone to really take that in. There's certainly now I know a lot of people are going through hard times because just this, we're in this wild experience, but we're getting through it. We're going to come to the other side of it. Just trust that you're being prepared. And so when you're given an opportunity to strengthen yourself and better prepare, trust that. Just trust, even if it doesn't make logical sense, even if you're frustrated, even if you're like mad, just trust it and see what you can do to show up for it the best you can.
I love that. That's such beautiful advice. And I do remember when we met and kind of ran into each other. We sparked a beautiful friendship, and I have just really, truly enjoyed witnessing you evolve and grow ever since. Truly, you really are such an inspiration because you show up authentically as yourself and you show up for the work. I mean, that's what I get the most from you. What I also am pulling out of this time together here that we've had, and thank you so much for being here. I'm also taking away that you found a way to really build a life and a business that first works for you so that you can work and show up for everyone else, right? And I think that is so critically important. Really showing up for ourselves and our gifts first, building it that way, right? We're the foundation, and then we can really go out and pour into everyone else. So thank you for bringing us that perspective today. I have absolutely loved having you here. And thank you for everyone listening. We will see you again soon. Bye, everyone.